about there. In the meantime, we are continuing to follow that deadly house explosion in Northern Virginia that left a firefighter dead. Officials say the catastrophic explosion Friday night destroyed the house as first responders were inside.
Yeah, and as you can see, the Sterling home was leveled. The explosion happened in a neighborhood on Silver Ridge Drive, just north of Route 7. As debris fell back to the ground, we're told trapped firefighters were sending out multiple Mayday calls.
Tonight, there are still a lot of questions about what happened in the moments before and after the blast. So here's what we know so far. The Loudoun County Emergency Communications Center received a 911 call just after 7:30 Friday night, reporting an odor of gas outside this home.
And firefighters arrived just before 8 and located a 500-gallon underground propane tank with a leak on the side of the residence. That's when they requested additional response teams. Now, minutes later, just before 8:30, units on the scene reported a catastrophic explosion. Loudoun County Fire and Rescue Chief Keith Johnson said at that time of the explosion, firefighters were inside checking for occupants and trying to control the leak. We learned one firefighter was killed in that explosion and several others were injured.
Now, the next morning, Chief Johnson identified the fallen firefighter as Trevor Brown of the Sterling Volunteer Fire Company. The father of 3 was a 4th-generation volunteer firefighter. Tonight, we know 4 firefighters remain in the hospital, 2 of them in the burn unit.
I'm proud to say that, yes, firefighter Brown was injured, but we rescued 9 other people that were injured on this fire scene from being trapped in the rubble. And often that doesn't work out well, but we rescued these people that were trapped in rubble, and they are alive today because of the efforts of the firefighters on the scene.
And there's a growing memorial at the site of that explosion with messages and flowers and pictures being left behind. The Loudoun County firefighter who died in the line of duty was a volunteer, Trevor Brown, and responded to the call along with 8 other volunteers who were injured at that night. In many places, you know, volunteers are the lifeblood of the fire service. News 4's Paul Wagner took a closer look at volunteering and why people do it. He joins us now live from the site of Friday's tragedy with more. Paul?
Hi there, Leon. Yeah, it hasn't been lost on anybody that these firefighters out here that were injured were volunteering, giving of their time to their community, giving back. Why do they do it? Some people just love it. They love the job. They love doing the job. Others do it as a stepping stone or career. We wanted to give you an inside look, a better idea on the volunteer service and why people do it. So earlier today, I spent the day with Lieutenant Dan Henning of the Kensington Volunteer Fire Department.
Every weekday after 5 p.m., the career firefighters staffing the Kensington Volunteer Fire Department call it a day, and the volunteers arrive for the night. Lawyers, business people, nurses, all showing up for the overnight shift, volunteering their time running emergency calls in the county, getting no pay in return.
I have a day job. This is like what I do here is completely different from what I do for a living. I work for a national radio network.
Dan Henning is a lieutenant and the chief recruiter for the Kensington Volunteer Fire Department. At least once a week, he spends the night at the station, sleeping upstairs.
There are some sleepless nights that we have where we'll run 2, 3, 4 calls between midnight and 7 a.m. And then there are some nights where, thankfully, we don't get any calls. There are some Thursdays where I need an extra cup of coffee at work.
Henning says the volunteers get the same training as the career firefighters, which can take as long as a year to complete, going to class just a few hours a week. The risks are front and center. The volunteers acknowledge them, and it's always top of mind.
Safety is our #1 priority above anything and everything else, and we talk about it all the time. At least once a shift, we're drilling something where safety is involved, and how do we keep ourselves and then the public safe.
Dan Henning says some volunteers come to the job as a stepping stone for another career, getting trained as an EMT, for example, with eyes on going to medical or nursing school. Still others do it despite the risks, just to give back.
For me personally, at least, it's the satisfaction of helping the person who called for help overrides that risk.
There are benefits to the job: tax breaks, grants for education, and a tight community like no other. Trevor Brown was a volunteer in Loudoun, a married father of 3, a man who just wanted to give back.
One of the firefighters who's being treated at the MedStar burn unit is a volunteer. And volunteering out here in Loudoun County is no different really from volunteering anywhere in this area, even in Montgomery County. You do get some tax breaks. You are trained the same way the career firefighters are trained. And out here in Loudoun County, volunteers are at every station in this growing county. That's the latest out here in Sterling. Leon, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. Paul Wagner reporting live.